Hi, Life Church. I just want to come to you today and just talk to you a little bit about something. I wanted to talk to you about actually Lazarus a little bit. And when Jesus comes to us and he tells us the story about Lazarus, and as a poor man who has ended up dead, and I'm not talking about Lazarus that he raised from the dead, the other Lazarus, where Abraham, he was Abraham's bosom, and there was this man, this rich man that was there, and Lazarus was on the other side of Abraham's bosom, and the rich man was on what we know is like hell, right? And he's calling over to Abraham and saying, hey, ask or tell all my relatives about this place so that they'll know the future type deal. And and in the story, we get a picture of Lazarus, and then we get a picture of this rich man. And one of the pictures that we get about him is that the rich man, while he was on earth, what he did with his time. He amassed a fortune for himself, and he did all of these things that were worthy to his own eyes. And we see Lazarus, who at that time frame was looked at like, oh, he's not doing anything for his life, right? And he was poor and he was meek, but he wasn't living necessarily all for just himself in that moment. And so we get this whole entire idea in all of that. And I just wanted to remind you, like in life, we have two different positions that we can take. Are we gonna live our life to where we're so focused on what we want, or do we see values further than that? And so I always think about like, are we trusting God in that moment for the values in our life? Are we trusting God for what he's doing in us? And one of the things I always think about is like a baby. Like when you have a toddler that's 2 years old, right? And they're moving around and they're going for like an electrical outlet, right? The first thing you do as an adult, you see them and you stop them and you pull them back. But a 2-year-old, the first thing that they're gonna do in that moment is cry, right? They're all upset about it. Well, why is that? Because the value that they see is different than the value you see, right? They see an electrical outlet and they think, oh, that's a cool play toy, right? But when we see an electrical outlet, we think that's dangerous, right, to the 2-year-old. And so we try and set different boundaries around that because we understand the value of things, because we're at a different position. And I think that's so true about us with God. Like God looks at us and he sees our lives and he sees a whole different value system than sometimes we do in our moments. Just like the rich man did in his life on earth, sometimes he saw a value system. It's important that I fulfill all my needs, right? And what's going on in my world right now. But if we'll take a look at it and we'll start to trust God and we'll start to see things from his perspective and listen to what God has to say in our lives, we'll start seeing a value system outside of just our own needs. And that's really when we start to impact that actually lasts. That's when we start seeing things, where God says like that we should take on his burden and it's light and it's easy versus our burden. Because if we do take on our burdens, we're gonna amass a whole bunch of stuff and go through a whole bunch of sacrifice all for ourselves. And at the end, it's not gonna be worthwhile in anything. But if we'll start taking on Jesus's values, if we'll start taking on his burdens of his values, and we'll end up dead, or we'll end up further in life because of that, at the end of it all, we'll come to a place where we'll see a life that's full of value. We'll see something that was worthwhile, to where we can look back and we can say, you know what? It was okay going through what I went through, because looking back, God did so much more, and there's so much more value. And so I just want to remind you with that. So, thank you.